always pick the wrong side. Is it the right side or is it the wrong side?
Wrong side.
Wrong side.
Okay, so you have your coffee.
I do.
And I have all of my drinks. Oh, this doorstopper of a book.
So we're liars.
Very seldom that we meet our deadlines, though, right? Especially with these tomes.
What did we say? We said we would get to what, like 47 or something?
Chapter 46.
And that's chapter 46 is like
Which
page
is
800 or so.
Yeah.
I got to page 400.
I think you were ahead of me. So I'm reading it on my iPad, and it comes to like 2,000 and something pages out of 5.
Do you remember what chapter you were on?
No, I don't. I mean, but it wasn't 20, though.
Instead of trying to finish it in one go, maybe split it.
Okay, because you know that we
Yeah.
won't.
There's no way.
Yeah, looks good. I think we can manage that.
So, tedious was the word I was trying to come up with earlier.
It is.
All the characters that don't have names with the titles, and then they switch titles, and there's this one story in here where there's like 3 Her Highnesses, and it's almost work.
It definitely requires more concentration.
Yeah, a lot more concentration.
And you really can't flow through it. Doug's New Court was really long, but I found that it flowed really well.
It had a rhythm, where this one, it's almost however long it took to tell this story, and you can tell when like some of the writers changed, and like the style, it just takes you for a loop.
I had to go back and reread it. I mean, because I don't know, the style was so different that I had a hard time understanding.
You're about to get to it where the narrator was actually a lot easier to follow. Whoever wrote these, and there was like a lot of humor to it. Okay. Did you get to the one where the ending is, I could go on, but I have a headache? There's a string of chapters where the endings just stopped abruptly, but it's funny. Like, they end on, like, this humorous note. I could go on, but I'm a woman, and I can't tell you these stories.
The Arabian Nights. There are so many things that allude to that, for me at least.
Right. When I'm in now, it just seems a little more difficult.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's just, it might just be me, though, because I'm struggling with it in a way.
Well, the different characters and their titles just really make it difficult. And even when I have the physical copy at home open to the characters, I mean, I still have a hard time following it.
Right.
So.
Because each character has like 3 names, so they'll say something and I'll have to like scan like over and over.
Yeah.
But basically, story-wise, it's essentially just Genji and his exploits with his lady friends.
He has to be the most scandalous characters in literary history.
That part's easy to follow. But I think also, too, some of the customs and the traditions that they hold, like the things they do, style of dress is supposed to mean something. It's just I'm not familiar with it, so I just have to take it a lot slower and try to piece it out. But I'm getting quite familiar with the names of different Japanese instruments.
Oh, yeah.
So compared to with the factory, too, I guess it's just the style, Japanese style, where each paragraph could completely change person, location, time period. It could just jump. It could be, the paragraphs could be flush, but that doesn't matter. It could just go to a whole new area. So that's...
Yeah, that takes some getting used to.
It's a doozy.
It's interesting, though, that you mentioned the customs. I guess being of Asian heritage. I mean, I'm not familiar with everything in here, but some of it rang a bell. So,
Okay, really?
Yeah.
Okay, then you're definitely way ahead of me.
Well, it's not completely all new, so I think it was a little easier for me.
Okay, yeah. I do want to understand. I don't want to just, like, mindlessly just look at the words and, like, drag my eyes across the page. I want to kind of know what's going on, but...
And that's the thing. Do you remember how you said I probably didn't have to read the footnotes? I had to, because I felt like if I didn't, that I wouldn't understand the story as much, and I just really didn't want to miss it. You know, and they are a little more relevant than what we found in the Arabian Nights. I'm just glad the poems aren't so long. Oh, I hated those couplets. They went on forever.
See, the poems in here aren't so bad. I think because they're not, like, they don't rhyme. So if I was reading this aloud to you, I didn't say like it was in the middle of the thing with the italics, it would just sound like what they were saying. It's embedded into the story itself a little bit better, I think. This is going to take some time. Slowly but surely.
Yeah. Book 2, 1001.
This is 3. This is 3.
Is it? Yeah, oh, yes, it says 3.
But the fact that they've started talking about, what's her name? Kayuga?
Yes.
When they started talking about her, I was like, oh, I get this. Like I didn't even have to read the footnote. I was like, oh, I'm understanding exactly what they're
so
getting
really
across here.
Neat.
It's more of a goal, I think. just to accomplish rather than something to read for like pleasure in a way. You raised the question: was this on the list because of the content or because it was considered the first novel? And I'm starting to think it's because it's considered the first novel.
It's also important in that it's the first book to really introduce the life of the aristocracy.
Okay.
So neat.
I think it's interesting that every character list mentions Murasaki, but like she rarely shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Like so she's so prominent in some sort of way.
Wait, no, she's the child. I mean right?
Yeah.
That's creepy.
That's what I was trying to hint at, and that was weird.
Yeah.
Like, reminds her so much of the woman that he fell in love with, basically his stepmom, that he like took this child and was like gonna just raise her till it was time. They're both like old enough. He's still like running around with all these other.
Yeah, well, but he still considers her like the darling though. Yeah, which is really hard to understand.
I think it's because she reminds him so much of
Fujitsubo or something. Yeah. I know a lot of words. I just can't pronounce half of them. It seems.
Like I said, you're much further ahead than I am.
Just because it seems like he is in love with Murasaki, just because she reminds him of her.
Maybe it's because it was like Fujitsubo was his first love.
And also, she seems so unattainable, right? I mean, and you always want what you.
Well, she can't.
She's a nun now, and
oh, that's where you're at? Oh, buckle in. Oh, yeah, things happen.
Yeah. Well, he's already been exiled for his actions.
Where he meets this other lady. You'll see.
Just that he finds someone
else. You'll see.
Because once you get the characters down, it flows just a little better.
By the time you do that, the story ends.
The chapter ends.
Start all over again.
Yeah. Yeah. Factory.
It was easier.
Well, easier, but not. I thought it was difficult. And I mean, not difficult, but a little harder to follow in some ways. I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, but I have my reasons though. But
okay.
How do you feel about it?
I wasn't like crazy about it, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hate it. Something about it that I enjoyed, but there was things about it that I think could have been expanded upon.
I love what she was trying to do with the book because I think she accomplished it. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, but just the story itself. Most people probably wouldn't enjoy it as we do. Like if you're looking for like plot and character development, it's certainly not your book. But if you're looking for like deeper meanings and then just
If you like Kafka, this
yes,
kind of book.
It is definitely Kafka-esque and not Costco.
I didn't think it all came together as tightly as it should have. He's building these three characters, and you know the connection between two of them because they're siblings. You start seeing them come together in the sense that the brother, is reading the report that was given to the Moss. The Moss.
Oh, yes, the bryologist.
He built this great setting. Like the factory is fascinating, and like all like the little weird things about it and the weird things about the other co-workers. It's all so neat, but then the characters themselves that we're focusing on just don't come together as tightly as I thought. As I thought maybe that's the point. Maybe they're not supposed to come together, and then the brother just disappears. Like the chapters are so ordered, but then he gets dropped. I
think that was part of her intent.
You think so?
Yes. I mean, I thought more about this book than I should have. I really like the interplay of what is real and what isn't, and what you think is real and what you don't know is. Not knowing anything about the book, I think, made it even better for me.
Right. Well, I mean, that's my go-to for anything.
Yes.
I don't want to know anything about it. I'm just going to dive in.
It's definitely a Japanese novel in that it has a mysterious aura to it. If you think about it on the surface, it just seems like just an absolutely meaningless story. I mean, it's like nothing makes sense. And she brings up the koipus and the factory shacks, and it's like, do they really have anything to do with the story? I mean, they do, but then they don't. I think there is a sense of inanity with how the workers view their jobs, and then
I thought that was really interesting.
Yes, and well, see, but then again, the book lacks any sense of purpose. But I think that's her intent, though. It's like we always want meaning out of everything.
Well, look at the three jobs. There was someone mindlessly
Oh,
shredding
that's
paper.
right.
Someone just having moss hunts. Like his job basically just became nothing, and he was so
Mhm.
frustrated. And then the reader person
Or the proofreader, I mean,
that was just reading nonsense
the
essentially.
senseless document.
So even their jobs were
Mhm.
pointless and meaningless. So
Washer lizard was weird.
that was
You know,
neat
yeah, and their senseless,
existence.
yeah, lives. I thought that the washer lizards were like a metaphor for like the highly competitive workplace where they were at the very bottom
Okay.
and they struggled like this almost meaninglessly. Were born and they ended up dying at the same place, like
Maybe,
with the washers.
Maybe there was three characters. There was three animals. The fact that the ending, she's referring to herself turning into a bird. So maybe you're supposed to compare one of the characters to each one of the animals. So
Not
like
true.
the biologist was brought in from somewhere else and now is just kind of just wandering around. So that's kind of like the koi poo. Is that right?
Yes.
And the washer lizard just in the same place doing nothing really, and that could be like the guy proofreading. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that's.
Yeah.
I think there's.
I mean, so what about the factory shag, the birds? I mean, I wonder why she chose to call them factory shags, because they were sort of like what, crows,
Yeah, they're supposed to be like
cormorants or something.
Yeah. Why else would you end with her like turning into a bird?
So do you think the biologist was the one who turned into the koi poo? Oh, and
That would make more sense to me because he was brought in.
yeah.
He didn't choose to go there like a washer lizard.
Oh, and they came from.
However, for their fur.
That's right.
And because they're.
I forgot about that. Yes.
This is just an idea that's literally coming to me as we're talking about it.
Yes, and then they became feral after they weren't needed anymore. Okay. No, I'll take it.
But what are the chances of 2 books in a row that mention koi poo?
That's what I was gonna tell you. I thought it was so funny because I love the fact that Lucy Ellman brought it up in Duck's Newbury Port. I mean, because I just love that word. It's fun to say. It sounds funny, and then to have like almost a whole section where she describes them. What are the chances?
It's short, and I wouldn't describe it like an easy read, but it was almost kind of breezy in that regard. But it did do the paragraph thing where like the paragraph would jump and you reorient yourself. But at the same time, she would take whole scenes of like dialogue and everything and just cram them together. The paragraphs
Yes.
are very strange in here, and I don't know if that was something to do with how it's written in Japanese, or if it's just what they decided to do for. I don't know. There's a lot of things I'm not sure of, but I think it worked for what it was.
I found myself having to constantly recalibrate my point of reference. She writes the story in such a way that it's very disorienting.
I didn't know what a forest pantser was. I was like, what is a pantser? And then a couple pages later, I was like, oh, they literally mean like pantser. That didn't really go anywhere though. Like,
that was funny.
The idea was funny, and the initial description was funny, but it didn't quite like take off.
She was trying to throw you for a loop, and I really think that sort of, I mean, that can sort of lead to like another metaphor, and we're getting into philosophical realms, but with this kind of book, I think you almost have to. That it can possibly be a metaphor for how she views life. I mean, it's very bleak, just in that you work and strive towards an end that you can neither comprehend nor grasp, and nothing makes sense. You know, and as humans, I think we are maniacal about trying to find meaning in anything and everything we do, when in actuality, there just may not be one.
So you're saying it's the feel-good book of the year?
Yes, like as Shakespeare says, there is neither good nor ill, thinking makes it so. Things just are. Accept and appreciate things for how they are, rather than just always trying to gain meaning or just something from it.
Okay. So would recommend or would not recommend?
I would not recommend this book just because I don't think the general reader would appreciate. Well, it depends on who.
Right.
Like I wouldn't recommend it to just anybody because I know for a fact that not everybody will enjoy it.
Right.
But like to my more pensive and thoughtful friends, yes, I would.
Okay.
Well, like I mean, didn't you think that the three main characters they almost wondered to themselves, what is the point of this job? You know,
Well, they constantly did that.
yes, I mean, and I thought, what is the point of this book? There's no meaning.
You have to put your own into it, otherwise, like an abstract painting,
Mhm.
you know, you're the one putting meaning into it. It's
Mhm.
not like the painting coming out like very specifically what this means.
Yeah.
The artist had their intention, but
Mhm.
and I'm sure she had her intention for like the pantsers that had meaning. She put it in there, but like it just to me it just kind of just fell apart.
Or are you just trying to find meaning when there isn't one?
Maybe.
I'm sorry.
Maybe.
I personally am okay with it not having any meaning, but it would be very difficult for a lot of people.
Right.
To.
It was deep and breezy, you know, like it
Mhm.
wasn't completely mindless. It didn't feel bogged down like
Mhm.
reading it. It was easy to follow. There was parts that were really funny. I thought the proofreading characters were funny. Those three women and that guy just made me laugh.
I mean, I'm still stuck on the document shredder. Just going to work and just shredding paper. I don't know. And so when I shred paper at home, I just love to speed it through. I personally love it. I know that sounds weird.
Maybe there's a job out there where you just
Yeah.
shred the papers.
Call me. So this first came across my radar.
Uh-huh.
Weather by Jenny Offill. When I came across an article on LitHub then, and I happened to find it on the news shelf. I like this book, but then again, it's one of those books that I can't recommend to any of my friends. It's slow, it's almost plotless, and it's meditative. So
Okay.
unless you like those kinds of books, then it probably isn't for you. An interesting fact from these books is that she mentions banana slugs. Have you ever
Uh-huh.
heard of them? You've heard of them?
Uh-huh.
When? I've never heard of them.
It's either you're looking for like those heavy, depressing nonfiction works or books with weird animals. They find you. I suppose.
Yes. Did you know that they're hermaphrodites and that they
No.
can technically mate with themselves? So they're native to the Pacific Northwest, but they're so charming out west that they were made the mascot for the University of California, Santa Cruz, I think.
Right, yeah.
Which can you imagine being dressed up as a banana slug? And they also produce this slime to stay moist for use in medical grade adhesives for human tissue.
Interesting.
Right? So I picked up my own graphic novel, and this was so cute. After all of the bleakness, I had to find something that was a lot lighter. It's just so cute. This crossed over the circulation desk so many times
Right.
that I just wanted to
That's
Find
so
out.
popular.
find out for myself, and I just love the illustrations. It's so cute. The main character, her sister, her little brother, and her mom drive out to Colorado
Okay.
to visit family, and has sections where it just talks about her childhood when her baby sister was born.
Okay.
So it's so cute. I think I'm a fan too. Oh, I had to get something to get me out of that.
I'm glad you read the graphic novel. I did not.
What?
Yeah. Didn't have time. Called Pretty as a Picture, but only because I read the bulk of it previously and just happened to finish it right after we filmed the previous video.
Fiction?
Yeah, it's like a murder mystery. Introverted, like oddball. She's a film editor.
Like us.
Well, even worse. The movie's about a murder, and then a murder happens, and someone recommended it to me because I like movies and I like reading. It was okay. I don't know. Like I didn't hate it, didn't love it, but for what it was
Okay.
there was a lot of film references, which to like older movies that.
Which I'm sure you were familiar with.
Right. I think that made it a little bit more enjoyable for me. But whereas if you're not familiar with like old Hollywood, it wouldn't probably be as enjoyable. Look Up and Stay in Touch. That was the book. I only managed to get through it too is because it was like mostly pictures. There's this artist named Slater Bradley. He does like photography, and filming. He met someone at a bar that like resembles him, so he became like his doppelganger. Is his thing. So like this actor would do things that Slater Bradley would do, like his morning routine. He would film someone else doing this, and that kind of bled into him filming this guy pretending to be Slater Bradley, pretending to be like Michael Jackson or Ian Curtis, and that led into him pretending to be River Phoenix. And it was all people that died. Like that was the one. Whoever they pretended to be, they were artists who have died. Then he met the cinematographer from River Phoenix's last film that was never released. So they started like recreating certain moments of that film. It was really, it wasn't like it's not like a story. So these are it's like interviews and essays from other people talking about this guy's work. But it's not. I'm building it like a story, but it's not. The idea of the doppelganger, it's neat. I've always been fascinated by that. So. Read Guide to Being a New Dad.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Really? Well, you're full of surprises. You're kidding. Ryan! Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I can't believe. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So,
oh, that's wonderful.
yeah, it's a...
Oh, I should have known you would do something like this. I should have known. Oh my goodness. I am so surprised.
Yeah.
Ryan, I'm going to get you.
So, she's a nurse. So like some of the stuff is like, it's good to have an idea. She knows way more than like he'd be able to explain like to me. So it's... I basically just read it so I could do that to you. I could read every baby book on that parenting show. I think a lot of it is, and I could be wrong, but I think a lot of it's just winging it. It's like life, anything else. Like you get the knowledge that you can, but when the situations arise, you just gotta go with the flow.
Well, see, I mean, knowing that already, he will definitely be a wonderful father. Obviously, because I think so many parents think that all answers can be found just in books. But nothing prepares you for the real thing. Yeah. Oh, boy. And you're full of surprises.
Oh, yeah. We forgot the...
Oh! The next book.
Next time will be Deacon King Kong by James McBride. So we'll see how this goes. All right.
I just love the fact that she went to work just to shred paper. I mean, I was so fascinated by that. Just so tickled by it.
I'll see who watches the videos and who doesn't.
Yeah!